Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine avatara varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Today is the auspicious Avirbhava Tithi, when the infinite manifested as the finite. It's a very strange phenomenon and so difficult to grasp, so difficult to understand. The ordinary minds, even people like us, find it very difficult to understand how something which is infinite can appear to us as finite. This appearance is known as Avirbhava, manifestation. Just like there is that huge ocean, and sometimes you suddenly see one wave rising. So, incarnations are like that. So, in 1836, God, the infinite, manifested himself as Sri Ramakrishna on 18th February, and as far as Tithi is concerned, according to lunar calendar, it was this day. Now, before I start speaking, I must thank our Ramakrishna Vedanta Society Philippines for inviting me, and Swami Udarananji. He's like my younger brother. We were together at Advaita Ashram, Kolkata, way back in 90s. And to Mr. Nirmal Ganguly, who has been coordinating my presence here, and he has been reminding me continuously about this program. So thank you, and thank you, dear devotees, because we who are in India, whether we from Ganga belt or from Godavari belt, for us, it is so natural to accept devotion. For us, it is so natural to accept religion. By religion, I mean Hindu religion, the concepts of Vedanta. But you who are beyond the seven oceans so far, I have only the highest of respect whenever I think of my brothers who are abroad, like Swami Udarananji, living all alone, trying to spread the message of Vedanta, which encompasses everyone, which is all about inclusiveness, which is about taking everyone along. And I was talking to one of my brother monks, in fact, specifically about Swami Udarananji, and I was telling him, just think, in Philippines, he's all alone. That monastic brotherhood for which Ramakrishna Mission is so famous. And Ramakrishna Mission is about brotherhood. Here everybody knows everyone, and we talk, we chat, we laugh, and we shed tears. He's all alone there. So difficult staying all alone. And it is the devotees who must be protecting him, guiding him from all the ills of the worldly enjoyments as well as worldly requirements. So thank you, dear devotees. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that Bhagavad Bhakta Bhagavan, God, His holy words and His devotees, they are all one and the same. So when you are talking, when a monk is talking to the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, and for that matter to the devotees of any of the gods, you know that somewhere there is that oneness. So I offer my deepest of respect to you all, and with your permission, I just share some of the fundamental ideas about how Sri Ramakrishna was a teacher and what are his teachings for us, for a common man. So, and as Mr. Nirmalji suggested that once I am done with whatever I have to say, we can have a small session. I can see lots of people who know me. They have joined, so I'm sure they don't have any questions. It should be coming mostly from the devotees who belong to Manila Center, Philippines. Now, at the outset, we mentioned that Avatar of Adhisthaya, Sri Ramakrishna is an incarnation. Sri Ramakrishna is an incarnation of God. What is this incarnation? When you think deeply, you don't have to think much deeply. Even a little bit, if you go down just a bit, you will realize one fundamental truth about life. And that is, inequality is life. Sameness is death. Even if it's not death, sameness has no existence. Those of you who might have read the famous poem about that albatross, ancient mariner song. There, it's described how ocean is flat, gone flat, and you can't make out if you are moving forward or backward, or if at all you are moving, because there is no motion, there is no inequality. It's inequality that makes life. It's inequality that marks life. Those who talk about equality, they are big talkers. The fact is that inequality is a law of life. The world is made up of inequality, and wherever you look, it's only inequality. We try to bring sameness of inclusiveness, not of sameness. There's a difference between inclusiveness and sameness. Inclusive means even though you might be unequal, even though your views might be different from mine, even though you might belong to some other country, some other race, some other faith, you are my brother. In sameness, they say that if you are tall, I'll cut you short and make you equal. Equality is death. Sameness is death. And that is why you find that some people are more intelligent, some are more rich, whatever might be the reason. We are not going into that. But we just need to know that this is the fundamental fact of life. And this inequality must not be allowed to rise beyond a point, beyond a level. Because when inequality crosses a limit, there will be revolution, there will be bloodshed. However, inequality is a fundamental fact of life. And this is true in the field of spirituality too. You find that there are people who are obsessed with the material world. There are people who are obsessed with getting wealth. People who are obsessed with enjoying the world the way we understand. Name, fame, females, etc. And there are people who do all this, and yet they are religious. They are trying to hold on to God too. And then there are people who are totally dedicated to God. Now, why this difference comes, we don't know. But as I said, inequality is the law of life. This difference, that some people are spiritually elevated and some are extremely elevated, this is a fundamental fact of life. No one can deny it, and it must not be denied. Now, of these people who are spiritually elevated to a very great extent, and about whom we know nothing, sometimes we feel, are they really human beings? Are they really human beings? Are they God? We have no answer. We don't know. Take the case of Jesus Christ. Most of you might be knowing about Jesus, Lord Jesus. When you read about him that he was crucified and he has only forgiveness for the people who crucified him, you start wondering, was he a man? Or was he God? You cannot make out. And then you find that your reasoning fails. Your mind fails to grasp that kind of personality because we are not used to grasping that kind of personality. Only that in India, this tradition has been going on for thousands of years. Persons like Jesus Christ, those whom we consider incarnations, those whom we call sages, rishis, who are the people who are the highest manifestation of spirituality. What is spirituality? Spirituality means there is no trace of worldliness in you. How do you define worldliness? Selfishness. Anyone who is selfish, self-centered, is not spiritual. To be spiritual, there is one and only one condition, and that is, you must be beyond yourself. How do you define self? This is a body-mind complex. When you are identified with your body and mind, you become selfish. You want wealth for yourself. You want name for yourself. You want company. You want security. You want support. In one word, if you are a noble person, you are self-centered. If you are not a noble person, you become selfish. Spiritual persons go beyond the self-centeredness. Spiritual persons go beyond the selfishness. That is what we find in Jesus. That is what we find in Buddha. That is what we find in Sri Ramakrishna. And that exactly is what we find in every great sage of the Indian traditions. Those great sages who contributed in the corpus of the sacred book, now known as the Ved. The Vedas, popularly known as the Vedas, and now the Vedas are in 4 volumes with 4 names. You find the names of the greatest sages, and it has been conclusively proved that these sages, they were not poets. They had the highest spiritual attainments, and whatever they saw in the depths of their realization, they poured out their wisdom. They were collected and written down later, came to be known as the Vedas. Sri Ramakrishna belonged to the same tradition. In the Vedic times, they were not known as avatara, but much later, when the Puranas began, that means you can say something like 4,000 years ago from today, somehow this term avatara was coined to denote a person who was believed to be more spiritually advanced than the sages. I'm talking about the historical evolution of the concept of incarnation. Somehow they feel that when we talk about spiritually elevated persons, there are 2 kinds. One, who rise from below and go to the top. And there is second, who come from the top to a level. The great sages are those who go from bottom to the top. Incarnation is one who comes from top to below. But ultimately, their level is same. Ultimately, what they talk, ultimately they preach, same. So for us, it does not matter whether the words have come from an incarnation or whether the words have come from a sage. Now, what exactly an incarnation does? As far as sages are concerned, we know they have given us some beautiful mantras. They have given us some beautiful thoughts. And how exactly we understand the difference between an incarnation of God, that is God Himself, and the sages? There are certain conditions. The first condition is nothing touches them even from their childhood. In the case of sages, they might be affected in their early days, not in later days. That means an incarnation of God like Jesus, they are not touched by anything since their birth. And they are in control of things from the very beginning. I am actually talking about Sri Ramakrishna, what his personality was. But above all, they come to teach. In Hindu traditions, we know of Sri Rama and Sri Krishna, and there is Parashuram, and there are some other who had to destroy even forces. But when you go through these sacred scriptures, you find that even when they were destined the only one, and that was to preach the truth about humanity, the truth about life, and truth about life is that you are divine. Sri Ramakrishna said it in very simple words. Incarnation comes to teach Jnana and Bhakti. Jnana is where you say that you are one with God. Bhakti is where you say that God alone has become everything. I am the child of God. So, we have to accept the words of Sri Ramakrishna. Why? He had no selfish motive. He was born a poor person, he lived a poor person, and he died a poor person. He never had any selfish motive. We should be doubting a person if that person has some selfish motive. Sri Ramakrishna had no selfish motive. He was established in purity. He was established in tradition, and he was working for the improvement of, for the welfare of the humanity. We have to listen to him. And what exactly he was teaching? We read in his biography that once his sadhana was completed, which was roughly for around 12 years, 12 long years, he was deep. He was absolutely gone deep into spirituality. And when it was over, he wanted to pass his wisdom to the world. Those of you who have come to Dakshineshwar temple might have seen buildings where Sri Ramakrishna stayed and where Holy Mother stayed, and where there was that building where the Jamindar, to whom that temple belonged. So there he would go to the roof terrace, and from there he would scream, "Oh dear devotees, where you are, come. I need to talk to you." Talk to you about what? About God. Because he was surrounded by the worldly people. Although Dakshineshwar temple is a temple, and was a temple, but people who were there, they were there to get money. From the most ancient times, and starting from the Jewish tradition to go to any tradition, any temple is the center for business. Because the priests are there to get their salary. There are shopkeepers who make money out of it. So Dakshineshwar temple was no exception. And Sri Ramakrishna was not interested in talking to those people. He wanted to talk about God, and to know about God, to hear about God, you need to have some preparation. You need to have some basic preparation. You need to have a mindset. And then came his disciples, one by one. Say, for example, chief amongst them, as we know today, was Narendranath Datta, who came to be known as Swami Vivekananda. And he asked, "Sir, have you seen God?" Sri Ramakrishna beautifully replied, "Yes, and I can show God to you too." This is teacher. We have been discussing teacher, and we want to see how Sri Ramakrishna was a great. This is teaching, where a competent student comes. Mind lecturer, competent. You should have competence, because nowadays, particularly because of the cyber media, cyber world and electronic media, we have to face different kind of questions. We have to find different kind of conversations. People who have absolutely no competence, people have no preparation, because see, today only I was talking to someone today, Belur Math. Some people make me, and because they have been listening to my talks, and now, do we have to study Gita like this? And secondly, how to be spiritual just like that? Bottom line is the same question that we hear all the time. So I simply asked, tell me, What's the minimum qualification required if you want to be a clerk anywhere in India? I was told graduation. You need graduation to be a clerk, which is considered to be the most ordinary job in India. And clerk means, graduation means 12 years of schooling, 3 years of college. That makes 15 years of learning. And 15 years of intense learning. You have to pass exams every year. And you have to have some percentage of marks. When it comes to spirituality, you say that you just want to have spirituality without doing anything. But to get the job of a clerk, you need to work so hard. And here you want to get God. You want to be one with God. And you say that you can get anything. And secondly, that look, you are in the world. You have been enjoying the world. And now you say that you are fed up of the world because you have tons of frustrations in life. And you think that simply by coming to Belur Math, simply by prostrating before Sri Ramakrishna, you will be spiritually as good as a monk. Is it ever possible? Monks who have been slogging through for years, monks who have given up everything, monks who have no security, nothing, no support in life. You really think that you can be like that? So what's the way out? I said, just keep listening. Keep reading the scriptures. Be in the company of the scriptures. Listen, study. And we Hindus, we believe that life is not about one birth. Life continues. Life goes on. In the next birth, you will have a better understanding of spirituality. And then a better further. You will improve. You will go on improving. Ideas, you will keep on evolving. It is not the evolution of the species. It is not the evolution of the genes. But it is the evolution of the spirit. Spirit that is within you. Spirit that is covered. I don't know if I am boring you with these philosophical talks, but we need to understand the fundamentals if we want to understand who Sri Ramakrishna was and what he did. So, and then Sri Ramakrishna started teaching about God. Anyone who came to him, anyone, we find that once in a while he has been indulging in talking about his village, talking about his relatives. But it's rare. Throughout the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you find that he's talking only about God. He's talking about different aspects of God. He's talking about spiritual life. He's talking about different aspects of spiritual life. Entire Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, which is not an edited thing. Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is not an edited thing. It is not the sanitized version of, say, what Jesus did and what is recorded in the Bible, because Bible is a sanitized version of the words of Jesus. Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is not. Everything, the mind testing, Sri Ramakrishna smiles, even that is noted. Sri Ramakrishna wants a glass of water, even that is noted down. And you find what? All the time is into spirituality. Because spirituality is the truth. That is my nature. So why we are moving around in this world? Because to find joy is my nature. To feel the bliss, to enjoy life, that is my nature. Only that this enjoyment comes in 3 different formats. This I am taking from Sri Ramakrishna. Whatever I talk will now be from Sri Ramakrishna. And this is known as Vishayananda, Vachanananda and Brahmananda. There are 3 kinds of enjoyment. That means we can broadly classify every kind of enjoyment, every kind of happiness, every kind of joy, broadly into 3 categories. Vishayananda, materialistic happiness, materialistic pleasures. Bhajanananda, joy of praying, joy of the prayer, joy of meditation. And then there is Brahmananda, where you enjoy God when you realize that you are one with God. We, me, you, and all. We all are moving in these three: Vishayananda, material, the prayer, and the bliss of God. Now, are these three different? Yes, according to Christian traditions. In Hindu tradition, no. It's the same. It's the same God who is manifesting as the universe. God and universe, these are not two different things. The pleasures, their results might be different. Certain things will bind you more. Certain things will take you towards liberation. Certain kind of happiness is lower. Certain kind of happiness is higher. Sri Ramakrishna beautifully says, those who have taken diluted sharbat of say sugar or molasses, it doesn't know the taste of sugar candy. Those who have eaten at a roadside eatery all their life, they don't know what it means to eat in a 5-star hotel. When you are living with the cheap things, when you are living with the ordinary things, you do not realize the joy of being with the class. Those who have listened only to fast music, they don't know what it means to enjoy classical music. Once you start enjoying classical music, you will not go back to pop. You'll find it inane. You'll find it so ordinary. So you find that Sri Ramakrishna is never talking about Vishayananda. He's not talking about the world. He's not talking about the worldly pleasures. And not even about worldly success. So maybe sometime nowadays we have management gurus and management teachers, and they're talking about how to manage life and all. Someday people may come up with ideas about Sri Ramakrishna and modern management. But no, Sri Ramakrishna was all about spirituality. Everything was about spirituality. Because that is our nature. That's our divine nature. That is our divine right. So, Udarananji in his mail had mentioned that devotees do not like too much of philosophical talks. And they said that they want to hear some stories, some jokes, etc. So, if you are really interested in philosophical aspects, we have this channel, Indian Spiritual Heritage, YouTube. You can listen to our English talks. And those of you who are deep into philosophical things, you can listen to our Mandukya Karika talks, and it's fully philosophical. So from this point on, I'll just narrate simpler things and what Sri Ramakrishna had to say to people who are living in the world. Sri Ramakrishna, the teacher for those who are living in the world. But Sri Ramakrishna was not teaching something like from a higher pedestal. Sri Ramakrishna enjoyed life, not the way we understand it, but there was dispassion about his enjoyment. For example, those of you who are familiar with his biography, you know that he went to the circus to see, and he brought examples from there. How the horse rider is in a circus performing different kind of acrobatics. Whenever he went to Kolkata, he would look this side and that side, and he even went to see the museum. And from there also he came up with his examples. Those of you who have been to Kolkata, those who live in Kolkata, know that he had passed by the governor's house, that is their governor's house, and that was his favorite route. Those of you who know that now central Kolkata, that is governor's house, from there towards Dakshineshwar. And there were many occasions when he would look very excitedly at the things, at the sights, and then while talking to his disciples, he would He would give examples, he would make examples of those things and say, that was his way of enjoying, and yet he was dispassionate. His nephew, that is sister's son, Ram was with him and used to serve him. And once he excitedly says, Mama, Mama, uncle, maternal uncle, see, this is governor's house. And Sri Ramakrishna saw that it was just a mound of, just a heap of bricks. So not that you are not seeing the governor house, because he was not like Buddha, telling that everything is just illusion. No, it was not. He's seeing things, he's enjoying things. He's enjoying the circus. He's enjoying the museum. And yet, he's not getting carried away with that. And carried away by that. No, he was not. That is the idea. That is what makes him a great teacher. See, it's very easy to give up things, stay away from them, and play great. Now, if you forcibly move away from things and play God, does it help? No, it doesn't help. Because your desire to enjoy the world stays here, not in the senses, not in the body. Even if you take yourself away forcibly, those desires will continue. And at the opportune moment, those things will bloom. Not only bloom, they will boom. And they will rebound with force. It may destroy you. So, a line has to be drawn. There has to be dispassion. The marks of dispassion has to be there in your life. We will be discussing more of this as we proceed. So we find that Sri Ramakrishna, who could not even maintain his dhoti, which is just a piece of cloth on his body, he was worrying about the financial security of Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi, because after all he was married, he had a wife, he had to take care of his wife. In one of his spiritual visions, he had seen Mother Sita with certain kind of bangles, those diamond marks, and Sri Ramakrishna had this desire that Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi should have exactly that kind of gold bangles. And he saved money and he had bangles made for Holy Mother Sarada Devi. Those bangles are still there. Can you imagine? When we talk about Sri Ramakrishna, who could not maintain dhoti on his body, just imagine. That person is thinking so much about his divine consort. Sarada Devi was not his wife the way we understand. But Sarada Devi was in the world. And when you are in the world, you will feel hunger. You will feel thirst. You will need security. You will need shelter. And Sri Ramakrishna worried for those things. You will have to worry for those things. You will have to take care of those things. And fortunately, those of you who are listening, you know these things much better. And Sri Ramakrishna was so worried about her financial security. That means once Sri Ramakrishna is gone, who will look after mother? Who will take care of her? So he kept some money and asked, how much food you take? So he was calculating, just imagine. Sri Ramakrishna, I find it so funny. Sri Ramakrishna, who could not touch money. He was a salaried priest. So he kept that money so that the interest that comes out of it may go to Holy Mother. Of course, later it was seen that it was not adequate. It was hopelessly inadequate. At the same time, once it so happened that Hridayara, you mentioned just now, he saw that Sri Ramakrishna was awake at night. There was light coming out of his room. He went to see and he found that Sri Ramakrishna was dressing vegetables at the dead of the night. Hridayara was surprised and says, Mama, what are you doing? Why are you dressing vegetables? And Sri Ramakrishna had a very weak stomach. So he said that, look, the cook does not know how much I eat. So there's a lot of wastage. So I'm raising these vegetables, cutting these vegetables, just the amount that I will take. After all, wastage is not a good thing. He tells Hridaya, Sri Ramakrishna, who could not touch money. Sri Ramakrishna was completely indifferent to this world. Sri Ramakrishna, about whom Holy Mother Sarada Devi says that he was the emperor of renunciation, Tyagir Badshah. He was established in Tyag. Imagine that person. He says that wastage is not a good thing. And then, beautiful thing he says, that see, after all, you have left your home and hearth, that is Kamarpur, that area, and you have come to Kolkata to earn some money. Why should you be wasting money? Imagine, particularly those of you who are in Manila, Philippines. I don't know how many of you are local, but most of you who are there, you went there, why? To earn some money. So you have to make sure that you don't waste it. See, this is what an incarnation does. That is how it teaches. And yet, he was not obsessed about money. He couldn't even touch money, imagine. On the other hand, he once saw Hridaya and he found that there was a young calf tied with a rope. And Sri Ramakrishna asked, what's the matter? Why is there this calf every day tied to this grassland? He said, no, I'm keeping it here, and once it grows up, it will become an ox and I'll take him to my village. There it will work. And Sri Ramakrishna fell down unconscious. Oh my God, so much of calculation. So much of calculation. This calf will grow, and after 5 years, 7 years, it will be taken to that village and there it will work in the farm. Now, when I read in newspapers, programs, if you invest after 20 years, you will get this much. I think what Sri Ramakrishna's reaction would have been if he read all that thing. All the plans that you see, offered by the bank and this credit system and this system, that system, what his reaction, because these things were not there in his time. When they talk about life insurance, 20-year plan, 30-year plan, God, you're planning so far ahead, oh God. So amazing. See, somewhere you have to draw a line. As I gave you these examples, Sri Ramakrishna was not against these things. And sometimes we might mistakenly think that a man of God has nothing to do with the world. Particularly, that's the kind of idea we get from the life of Buddha. That's the kind of idea we get, say, from Jesus Christ. But no, an incarnation of God, particularly in Hindu tradition, has to take care of the worldly needs as well as its spiritual core. In essence, you are spirit. In essence, you are one with God. That has to be kept alive all the time. At the same time, one has to take care of the world. Whatever I am talking today is about the world, how you need to take care of the world, and how Sri Ramakrishna experienced it, and what Sri Ramakrishna's words are about this world. So this is the general outlay. Now, Sri Ramakrishna used to say that, look, have joy. If you are in the world, have joy. So this is the first point I would like to emphasize. Have joy. He says, look, when I meet Naren, later Swami Vivekananda, I forget everything else. I never ask who his father is, what he does, and where he lives. I am so filled with joy. The idea is that be full of joy. Never be with people. Never, under no condition, be with people who will not give you joy. Move away from them. And you yourself will realize with time that Vishayananda, Bhajanananda, and Brahmananda, which we mentioned, there are joys coming from materialistic pleasure. There are joys coming from worship, meditation, yoga, and the joy that comes from spiritual realization. You will realize that some are transitory, some are temporary, and some are more permanent. As you move towards more permanent thing, you'll find that your joy continues to be for a longer period. Your joy is far more intense. So, finding joy, because wherever there is joy, it's your own self. It's your Atman. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, a very famous Upanishad there, Yajnavalkya tells that you don't love anything, you don't love anyone for that thing. That means a mom doesn't love her baby because it is her baby. She loves because she sees herself in that baby. You love wealth because you see yourself in that wealth. However, that seeing, that reflection is limited. When you take this whole world as your own, your joy will naturally be multiplied. So, secondly, Sri Ramakrishna talk about while talking about earning. You must strive to earn more. Most people do not know about these things and maybe they don't focus. Sri Ramakrishna specifically says one should strive to earn more because as you earn more, you can help others, you can serve others. People whom I know who are in the work field, I always ask them, let's see, you try to get promotions, you try to earn more because you will be able to help more people. But this earning has to be honest. And you must not get involved in the world using your capabilities, using your strength that God has given. You should always try to earn more. You must try to, because see, it's the householders who maintain monks. It's the householders who maintain the society. It's the householders. See, even the government has to tax these householders. Any country's government runs entirely on the earning of the householders. And in India, we have so many monks. We have rich monks, we have poor monks, we have famous monks, we have lesser known monks, all kinds of monks. And they are all maintained by the householders. If you don't have money, who will look after these monks? Sri Ramakrishna says, earn. But this earning has to be honest. There should not be any dishonesty in it. And when you are earning, don't you forget that you have duties. You have duties towards paying. But you need to keep your ideas very clear. Your ultimate duty is only towards God. Your ultimate duty is only towards yourself. See, today is Sri Ramakrishna's Tithi Puja, and by chance Belur Math is open today, and we had lots of pranams going to senior monks. So one young boy came running to me and said that he listens to my YouTube talks, and as most people understand spiritual teachings according to their understanding. They twist and they mold teachings to say this, to suit their mentality. He said, "Oh Swamiji, what a wonderful teacher you are. And I learned so much from you." And I said, "What?" He said, "Only God is yours." I said, I never taught that. I never say that. Only God is yours. No. Even God leaves you. There are times when God also leaves you. You alone are your true friend. There is no other friend. Not even God. Remember that. So he left me and entered the temple. And there were others, they started laughing. I talk like that. See, ultimately it is you alone. And according to Vedantic traditions to which we belong, it is your own self who appears to you as God. You are your greatest friend. You have your duty towards life, you have duty towards your children, you have duty towards society, you have duty towards other things. But your ultimate duty is towards yourself. You must remember that it is your growth. It is your subjective growth. It is your inner growth. It is your spiritual growth that ultimately counts. Everything else is secondary to that. However, if you say that you want to jump into that right away, no, you cannot. You will have to work. Unless you work a lot, unless your tendencies within you, the tendencies which tend to make you inert, the tendencies that tend to make you violent, the tendencies that make you feel that you are the superior most, they need to go away. For that, you need to work. You need to be active. And from there, you need to learn to be good. In India, we have this problem. Most Indians, either they are inert, tamasic, or they think too highly of themselves. It's only through work that these two personality defects go away. And only then you can aspire to be spiritual. If you aspire to be spiritual, if you really want to do duty to yourself, you will have to work. This is what Sri Ramakrishna says, that you keep on doing your duties. But don't forget that your true nature is something else. Your true home lies somewhere else. You are earning a lot and you are performing your duties. One very important thing in all this is company. Kind of people you mix with. Sri Ramakrishna used to emphasize so much on the importance of company. And Jesus beautifully says, just say nay, nay, yea, yea. But no, that's not how you can live in this society. That's not how you work in a corporate world. No, you cannot. There is work relationship, there is a professional relationship. But you also need company. You need to be in the company of the good. When you find that this person is inimical to your growth, this person cannot help you grow. Don't go against him. Be polite. And when you find that somebody is coming to harm you, the famous story from Sri Ramakrishna, his setting, don't pour your venom. We people are so full of venom. We people are so venomous. Whenever we come across somebody whom we don't like, we don't mind pouring venom. We say that I love to give peace of my mind. And see, every piece of our mind carries only venom, venom, and venom. No. Because when you harm somebody, when you think badly of someone, you are harming yourself. In this world, there is no two. In this world, see, I'm talking from my own experiences. I'm not only talking about Sri Ramakrishna. One thing that I have realized in this life that this world is all one. It's all my reflection. You may not realize it. It may take years to realize. It may take birth to realize, but it's a fact. When you harm somebody, first you have to think of harming that person. That means your mind gets involved. That means the poison that you're using from your mind to harm others, that poison is getting aggravated. That poison is becoming more intense. And that poison will harm you. See, you might have heard of these popular things like, whatever goes out comes back. No, it's not like that. Whatever is created stays with you. You create poison, poison stays with you. You create nectar, it stays with you. When you love others, the love doesn't come back to you. When you love somebody, that love stays with you, becomes intensified, and makes you more inclusive. When you are in company, when you are with this world, you need to be very choosy, you need to be very careful. These are the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. I just selected some of these teachings which I thought will be useful for you people who are in this world. And probably you might have heard of these things from some of those teachers who talk about positivity and who talk about personality building, etc. But Sri Ramakrishna is talking from entirely different perspective. And you have to have strong determination. Now, all these things are required even by the monks. Even we monks need all these things. But those who are in this world, those who are living a householder's life, they need these things much more. As Sri Ramakrishna talks about two farmers. One farmer, or both these farmers, they needed to get water from the river because there had been a drought. And a farmer was working, his wife came and said, "Why do you have to work so much? Take a bath, eat properly." And he agreed to that. And ultimately, nothing happened. He couldn't do anything. Because people who are lazy, people who procrastinate, people who are not of strong determination, they cannot achieve anything in life. Neither wealth, nor security, and definitely not spirituality. Thank God you are in Manila. I don't think people of Manila have the mentality that we have in India. Here in India, we like to push everything to God. God's will is there. God will take care of us, etc. And nothing harms a person more than this attitude that God will take care of us. One very important thing that Sri Ramakrishna used to talk about was you should have self-respect all the time and a sense of freedom. These two things. The sense of freedom and strong determination. For example, he talks about some priests who were bachelors, who were not married. And they had such sense of freedom that they didn't even care for the king. And so the king arranged for their marriages. The moment they got married, they lost everything. Here, marriage is not important. Being bachelor is not important. The important thing is that sense of freedom was lost. And Sri Ramakrishna talks about people take up job in these offices, and their bosses hurt them. Bosses insult them. Still, just for a few rupees, that is a few dollars, they have to bear with all this. So, the important thing is to have self-respect, to have that sense of freedom. Even if you earn a little less, but you have that sense of freedom, it is better, according to Sri Ramakrishna. However, although we have been talking about all this, these things look like life lessons, and these things probably could have come from any of these speakers who talk about is importance of solitude. Sri Ramakrishna repeatedly talked about the importance of solitude. If you want to have butter, if you want to make butter, milk has to be left in isolation. It should be disturbed, and then curd is formed, and then from that curd you make butter. See, we all want to succeed. You want to succeed, I want to succeed. You want to succeed in some field, I want to succeed in some other field. We forget the most important thing, the most important driving force in success, it is solitude. I used to deliver talks at Indian Institute of Management, the most prestigious institute in India. And I always used to say that, dear managers, you are the would-be managers, learn the importance of solitude. If you don't learn to be alone, if you don't learn to be silent for a while every day, possibly 2 to 3 times a day, power will not be generated within you. In those, when Sri Ramakrishna is talking, as we mentioned, it's all about spirituality. Ultimately, it's all about going towards God. So do all your duty. Practice certain values. practice certain habits, grow in stature, grow in strength, and practice solitude. Once you practice solitude, you will be face to face with yourself. When you are face to face with yourself, you yourself will know what is right and what is wrong. But most importantly, you will know what is the purpose of life, where I am going, where I am supposed to go.